Welcome, everybody, to our next episode of Come Back to Love Radio. I'm Robyn Vogel, and we are live on Dream Vision 7. Welcome to the listeners out there. Welcome to anybody who's brand new to the radio show. This is where we explore the journeys of healing, connection, and transformation in love and relationships. I'm your host, Robyn Vogel, and I'm a love and intimacy coach and the creator of Heal Your Heart. Join me and my guests as we share stories, tools, and insights to help you rewrite your love story, whether it's about overcoming heartbreak, unraveling old patterns, or reigniting the spark in your current relationship. Together, we'll explore how love begins within and expands outward to create meaningful, fulfilling connections with yourself and with others. You can tune in to Come Back to Love every Thursday at 1 a.m. and 1 p.m. Eastern on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. Listen online on your mobile device, in your car, while you're going for a walk. Simply ask Alexa to play Dream Vision 7 Radio. In each episode, I welcome incredible guests who bring their unique perspectives and expertise to help us dive into topics like self-compassion, healing childhood wounds, and creating the love you desire and deserve to have in your life. Today, I am so thrilled to be joined by a special guest, Katie Kozlowski. Katie is a master energy and embodiment coach and the creator of the Shakti Bomb Way. She helps smart, spiritually driven, and highly motivated people create big breakthroughs so they can create more of what they want by connecting to their core beliefs, needs, and desires. Katie's biggest passions include helping people break patterns, smash boxes, I love that, step into bigger possibilities, and embrace their true nature. And she is wild about watching beautiful souls who are ready for change come into their power. For the past 15 years, Katie has helped people overcome their fears, heal trauma, restore their power, and create big breakthroughs. Katie, I am so excited to have you here. The energy is already so big. Just
so as
it's so big.
it's Shakti bomb for a reason, right?
Yes.
It's like one of those candies. You put it in your mouth and it goes
Exactly. Yeah, those ones you used to put in your mouth that fizz and everything.
fireballs, or I used to
Yes.
like one of those. It like hurts so good. You're like
Yes.
it's so hot, ow! But it's like sweet in the middle. That's me. That's me. I'm like a fireball. Little
A
sweet, little
fireball with some
spicy.
sweetness in the
One of
middle.
those like spicy pickles where you're like, this is so good, but I don't understand. What am I eating here? It's hot. Ow. Yum. Sweet. Tis I.
Awesome. Well, that just leads us right in. And I think honestly, the first thing we need to talk about and share with our listeners who might have been hearing the words Shakti and the Shakti Bomb Way for the first time, I would love to start there, kind of in the middle, to ask you, like, what does that mean, and how
Why?
and why?
Yeah, why? Why would you call it that? That was my
Yes.
question when I was putting it together. I thought, why? But why would I call it that? But it does make sense. So I have my roots are in energy healing, energy mastery. And so my spiritual teacher he was Irish actually, but he had Hindu roots and so Hindu training. So I understood a lot about Kundalini energy, the Shakti, which is life force energy, through the feminine lens. And so one of the things that I just sort of naturally understood was who I am and what it is that I'm really teaching people to work with, which is creativity, right? It's ingenuity, it's intuition, it's adaptability. And that is what Shakti is. Shakti is creative life force energy, right? And it flows through us. And so when it came to giving it a name, I thought, well, it's Shakti. It really truly is. It's authentically 100% teaching you how to work with this creative energy. And the bomb was actually coming from this like sort of long story short. When I was younger, I had this idea. I had this alter ego that was my sort of like the namesake I gave myself, and it was actually sick bitch. And it was all about people are always offended by that. They're like, oh my God, that's terrible. Don't call yourself that. And I said, no, you don't understand. It's sick bitch. That's sick bitch. It was all about empowerment. And this, I used to say the tagline was sick bitch, an exclamation to describe something awesome. So it was all about power. And again, this sort of like explosive expression of self. So bomb went on the back end because that's what it is, right? It's like creating this massive, powerful explosion in your life, but in a positive way. This isn't about destruction, tearing you down. It's about the permission to really sort of explode into the incredible person you are. So, like a star, right? A star explodes. There's like that explosion. That's where it came from. And I came up with the name quite some time ago now. And I took a long time sharing it in the world just because I felt like, is it okay for me to use this? Like, can I say this? And then over time, I obviously thought, of course you can, because this is really what you're teaching people. It's tried, it's tested, it's true. And that's kind of how it arrived on the scene. And that really is the best expression of what it is and what it means for you, what's possible for you.
Wow, beautiful. So let's say, just because our listeners are probably all different bodied folks, that I guess one question to ask you is, does this work apply to all bodies, or is it mostly for feminine bodies?
Right. Actually, what's interesting is I have worked with a wild range of people over the years. That's why I love this so much, is that it's not just for women. I have worked with people who are transitioning. I have worked with trans. I have worked with I've worked with men, women, people identifying in different spaces, people who sort of sit in the LGBTQ plus community. This is for anybody because Shakti is life force energy, right? We all have access to it. And that feminine energy, it's not about being a woman, right? That's not what it's about. It's about creativity. It's about passion. It's about self-expression. And last time I checked, we all have feelings. We all have emotions. We all want to be loved and we all want to express ourselves. So it's for anybody and everybody. And that's why I love it so much, because we all deserve to love ourselves and be happy, right? And if this helps, please, this is for you, for me, for all of us.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you for
Yeah,
just
that's a
clarifying that
great
for our
question.
listeners.
Yeah.
Yeah. And let's step back even a little bit more. Like, what kind of, when people come to you, what are they struggling with mostly? So our listeners can really capture like who this is
Yeah.
for, and then we're going to hear
Yeah.
about all the gifts. But yeah,
Yeah.
start
Yeah.
there.
So I've worked, as I said, this has been in the making for 15 years. And one of the things I just did recently was I took a step back and I looked at all of the different people. Because I've had people come to me with chronic illness. I've worked with people with autoimmune disease. I work with people with chronic arthritis. I had a woman who couldn't walk. I also have people who've experienced, sexual trauma, and they're looking to heal their self-esteem, their self-worth. The range of people, I've had people come to me who got fired from a job and they were looking to create a new career. So there's sort
Yeah.
of like this inciting incident, right? And that's what brings people to me, is I call it sort of the enough is enough. Like you hit you hit your level of tolerance in whatever capacity that is. So something happens, just like it happened to me. Something happens that makes you see or feel, you know what? I have been living my life this way. I'm no longer happy experiencing things that I'm experiencing. I would like to create something different. Can you help me? And that's typically the genesis of it. So trauma brings people to me, chronic illness, pain, breakups, divorces, so many different
Mm.
things bring people to me. But at the heart of hearts, it's that, just like me, I realized, I've been letting people take advantage of me my whole life, right? I've been letting people abuse me, and I wasn't okay with it anymore. And I wanted to figure out why on earth I would do that, right? Like, why would I let people treat me that way? And how am I going to get to the other side of it? That's typically what it is. It's when people wake up and say, hey, wait a minute, this isn't okay. I don't
Hmm.
deserve this. And then
Mhm.
enter me. And I say, you're absolutely right. Let's figure out how to get out of this. Let's get to the other side.
Beautiful. So thank you for mentioning your own life story because I would love to hear more, and I know our listeners would too. Like, what did happen for you in your life? You just referenced a few things,
Yeah,
but love to hear more about, what was going on, as much as you want to share about what
yeah,
happened. And
right. I am
yeah.
a big wide open book. There are no secrets in my life for the most part, right? I'm very transparent. And so the inciting incident, right? The thing that sort of brought me to my knees. I was 29. It was 15 years ago. So it was the beginning of this work. I was 29 years old. I was living in New York City as an actress, working as a spokesmodel. And on the surface, everything was great, right? I had a great job, and I was beautiful, and I was dating, and I was, all the things, right? I got free alcohol and free dinners and lobsters, and it was the Sex in the City life, right? It was very
Mm,
glamorous on the surface,
mm,
but my emotional self was not okay. I was struggling emotionally. My self-esteem, the guy I was dating was basically borderline abusive. He was a little bit on that edge of narcissism. I wouldn't say he was a narcissist, but he really didn't really care about me. And so I was working in the liquor industry, and basically what happened was there was a particular night he stood me up. He didn't show up. My self-esteem was not so great. I often struggled with, feeling like no one cared about me, feeling like nobody loved me. And on that particular night, it just so happened that he didn't show up. It was also like the one night that I didn't drink. I was so devastated that he didn't show up that I couldn't even bring myself to drink. Like, that's how pathetic it was for me. I'm like, I can't even drink my favorite thing. And I was
mm.
walking home, and I was crossing the street, and I got hit by a taxi. And it was,
Wow.
yeah, yeah, I mean, kind of a big thing, right? It was a life-changing moment though, because when it happened, I can't say I did it on purpose. It wasn't like I purposely stepped in front of the car, but I knew the car was coming. I saw the car. I thought to myself before I stepped off the curb, you know what? I don't even think anyone would care if I died. Like, I don't think they'd care. So, whatever, I guess let's just roll the dice and see what happens. Well, I did get hit by the taxi, but I wasn't hurt. I did sort of a weird superhero move. I Shakti bombed it, rolled on the hood of the car, rolled in the street, popped up, and kept walking, which was a miraculous feat. I mean, it really superhero-esque superhero move that I managed to pull off. So, like, this is why I do what I do, because I don't recommend it, right? Let me help you not test the fate to find out whether you're worthy or not of being alive. Just take it from me. You got everything you need right now. You don't have to test it. I did. And it
Wow.
obviously changed my life because I wasn't hurt. I wasn't even scratched. And I thought, wait a minute, hold the phone. Something's not right here. I shouldn't be feeling this way. And that set me on my path because I wanted to get to the root of why somebody like me with such a big, beautiful heart. And, I was a really good person. I was doing everything right. I didn't deserve to be treated like that. I didn't deserve to have a guy who stood me up. And, I wanted to know why, and I wanted to get to the bottom of it. And so that was what started all of it. I was like, enough is enough. I'm not going to let myself be treated this way. I know I'm not treating myself as if I matter. And off I went into the land of spirituality. Never,
Wow.
never to be the same again. Yeah.
Wow. Katie, that is quite a story, actually.
It's
Like,
pretty, it's intense.
yeah, it's intense and dramatic, and wow, that's really intense. And you're so lucky, obviously, that
Oh my
nothing happened
gosh.
when the taxi hit you. And wow, so what was your next step? Like, what did you do next?
Well, the wah wah of it is that so
Hmm.
that night I walked home actually, which again, I'm like, who does this? Who gets hit by a taxi? Like,
Right.
full on gets hit by a taxi going 35 miles an hour, and then walks home in 4-inch heels. I do. It was West 4th Street. I walked to 25th Street.
Yep.
I had a
Oh
little,
my God.
oh yeah, I was like, I got hit by a car. I was like
20
crying.
blocks. Yep.
It was like a movie. It was an I am an Amy Schumer movie. It's very, very like you
Me
could,
too.
yeah, it's like it's a movie, right? You're like, that can't have
Yep.
happened. It did. I so obviously I went home. I had a chat with myself. The bummer of it is that the guy that I was dating showed up the next day, and he was like, I bet you think it's my fault because if I had shown up, you wouldn't have been hit by the taxi. So I full on forgave him and was like, no, I don't blame you. So I kept dating him, and then 2 months later, it was my 30th birthday. he absolutely humiliated me in front of my family, didn't give me a card, didn't give me a gift. I was devastated. And that was really the moment where the straw broke the camel's back, because everybody saw it. My family saw it. My sister's partner at the time basically was like, I think you need to go to AA because you have no self-esteem. Like, I think you need to
Mm.
do something about the fact that, like, and I am from a family of alcoholics, not my mother or my father, but, further removed, aunts, uncles, grandparents on both sides, like a lot of it. So that was her suggestion, was, and I thought she was calling me an alcoholic. So I was so upset and I was like, I'm not, but I still knew I needed to do something. And so I had a friend who was a spiritual healer. She was my buddy, and she had done some Reiki for me and things like that. And so I went back to her, and there was a particular healing modality that she was doing. And I said, that thing you said that you do that's like really powerful, that one, I want that. Do that. Do it for me now, because this is not okay.
Right.
And then that set me on the path, path, because after that, I got fired from my job. Like, everything started changing really quickly. I fell into voiceover work. My life started
Mm.
to get better, right? And changes happened. So that was the beginning of it. And the man who created that healing modality became my spiritual mentor. I trained with him for like I want to say like 8 or 9 years, pretty hardcore.
Wow. Wow.
I
Do you
went
want to
deep.
say anything about that, or who it was or what it was, or
You
it's up to
know, what I can say is that he was a wonderful man. He's not really teaching anymore, and that's why I
you?
don't necessarily like, people hear me say his name and then they're like, "Oh, I want to look him up," and he's not really teaching.
Yeah.
So, but the modality was called Rising Star. It is still out there. And his name was Derek O'Neill. Like, there's no issue with him. It just, he's not really teaching anymore, but he became my mentor, and he really was. I mean, when I say was, people are like, is he dead? I'm like, no, no, no. He's still alive. It's just not, he's retired. Um,
Yeah.
but what I got from that was just this tremendous exposure to the energy mastery. And he was the one that sort of changed my life when it came to learning how to work with energy, mindset. It all came from him. And he was, the thing about him that I loved was he he had like 7 or 8 black belts. So he was like a true Jedi master. So he could,
Wow.
like, wield energy and like take people. He would do all this crazy cool stuff. And I just was obsessed with what he was doing. And I'm like, I got to learn how to do that. So I learned so much about how to work with energy, how to work with consciousness, how to sort of open the subconscious in ways that are non-invasive. And, so much of what Shakti Mom is based on what I learned from him. So, I mean, he really was like my spiritual, he was like my Yoda. I'm like,
Yeah.
I am Han Solo, or like I not Obi-Wan Kenobi. What's his name? Or Princess Leia, whatever. I learned how to use the Force, and he was like
Yes.
my Yoda, who taught me, like, the Force is very powerful and you have it in you, and I'm going to teach you, like, I'm going to train you. He was like my trainer.
Beautiful. 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 Wow. That's so powerful. We could take that in so many different directions. I think we'll take a very short commercial break and come right back to this conversation. See you all in a minute. Welcome back to Come Back to Love Radio on Dream Vision 7, and I am here today with special guest Katie Kozlowski. Sorry. And I'm so enjoying this conversation. Hearing your personal story of transformation is so powerful. And your energy, like I said in the beginning, is so powerful. And I can just, it really resonates with me because I also have like a lot of that strong, powerful energy in my Scorpio self.
Mhm.
Um, but one of the things you just mentioned just reminds me, and I wonder what your perspective is on this, that a way that I've been thinking about energy recently is that it's neutral. And and the way that we work with it is what allows it to contribute in a positive way,
Mhm.
hopefully.
Yeah.
Um, and also it can contribute in ways that aren't supportive of our highest and best selves when we're not, actively engaged and using it in a conscious, clear way that is in support of ourselves and the greater good. And I wonder if you have any thoughts on that piece. It's something a lot of people, I actually, in all my travels, I don't hear a lot of people talk about it in that way. But you've had
Yeah.
an experience with the Jedi, and I've had an
Well,
experience
listen,
with that.
yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
listen, the Jedi, he had a teaching about this, like this specific thing.
Mhm.
And it's he basically said with energy, you're right, it's neutral. And he said the way you work with it, you either have a nuclear bomb or you have nuclear medicine, right?
Oh, nice language. Huh.
Yeah. I mean, listen,
Wow.
I told you he was good. I didn't say he was a
Yeah.
bad teacher. Very, very smart, very wise, and very spot on. So you either have a nuclear bomb or you have nuclear medicine. And basically, what he meant by that, and I understand it through the lens of what you do with your experience, right? What you do with your consciousness, what you do with your energy, what you do with your Shakti, right, can either destroy you or it can rebuild, right? It can like help make you better. And this is one of the reasons why my method, the Shakti Mom way, is a little bit different because I'm so conscious because I was trained by him. I was taught how to use these powerful energies that are very destructive in nature, that are very, very powerful. Shakti and Shiva energy. I mean, Shiva energy is incredibly destructive and in sort of a negative way. Like my teacher was a Shiva teacher. So he was like direct, he was bold, he was harsh, and it hurt, right? It was painful to be Shiva because it was like, bam, I'm going to hit you with the truth and you're just going to like, ouch, right?
Mm.
But
Yeah.
I wasn't like that. I got hit by a car and was like, bounce, I'm fine. Because I learned how to turn it into nuclear medicine. So the methodologies behind what I teach people, even when I'm working with people individually, is you can take your energy and you can use Shakti, which is incredibly powerful in terms of creating transformation. So when we create transformation, things still need to be destroyed. We still need to break it down, right? We still need to clear a path. So there's still destruction. It's just destruction through love, which is a little bit gentler than like, I'm going to push on your pain points and I'm going to make you feel like crap about yourself. And I'm going to tell you what's wrong with you so that you submit to me. I mean, I've seen a lot of this stuff in the spiritual world, especially, and in the coaching world, but it's kind of scary. And I think that this is a methodology that I was trained. It's like respect for the energy itself, right? Just because I know how to work with consciousness at a really high level doesn't mean that I ball it up and I wallop people because I can, right? That's not fair. That's not fun. It's not fun for
Right.
me to hurt
Yeah.
people. I don't want to do that. I want to inspire people to be like, wow, look at this thing that I have. If I transform it, like it's more like art. It's like working with clay. It's not an obstacle like I have this rock in front of me and I got to take a pickaxe and chip at it. It's like, no, no, no. If I just like finesse it, like maybe I can like, like shift it a little bit to the left and then look, there's a space. Now I can like, squeeze, I can turn myself into a worm and then I can like worm my way through. Do you see what I mean?
Mhm.
It's that's what Shakti is. It's so creative that you don't have to hurt yourself getting where you want to go. It's nuclear medicine. It's not a nuclear bomb. It doesn't have to, you don't have to blow yourself up.
Right. Yeah, I like that language, nuclear medicine versus a nuclear bomb, although I don't like to think about nuclear bombs these days. But
No,
it's
who does?
it's a great play on words. And for me, in my Tantra background, the divine, masculine and feminine are those inside all of us, no matter our biology of our bodies. And that piece, and it's a polarity that exists together in nature. And just what you said is so important. It's like there needs to be a dismantling and a destruction in order for something new to grow from that. We have the phoenix rising out of the ashes and new growth when things burn down. And I think it's a really important part of healing and transformation. And it can also be uh, forgotten because it can be, not always, but it can be intense when
Yeah.
things are being dismantled.
Oh yeah. I mean, listen, I've been through the dismantling and I've been in the void and I've been down in the depths of despair. And I mean, I've been here, there, and everywhere. I know the journey, and that's why I have so much respect for people when they're going through it, because I get it and I know what it's like to feel like you're being torn apart. And I've been in those places where I feel like I'm being ripped to pieces. And that's why I have come back to this idea of really loving yourself enough to do it in a way where you don't have to do that anymore. Like, we don't have to rip ourselves. We don't have to rip ourselves to shreds. We don't have to douse ourselves in gasoline and, like, run through the fields on fire anymore. It's like you can actually change your life without a tremendous amount of suffering and struggling. I know, because I am the lady who has done it over and over. And I laugh because I'm like, why do I keep doing this? And it's like, getting hit by a car wasn't enough. Like, lady, that is intense stuff. And again, because I am who I am, because I know what I know, I didn't experience pain, right? Which is like weird.
Mm.
But it's because in some way I knew on a higher level, you don't have to hurt yourself to change. Why do you keep throwing yourself into burning buildings? Why are you like, like throwing yourself up against a wall? Stop. Stop. And that's why when the car happened, I thought, okay, I can't keep doing this. This
Mm.
isn't fair. Why do I do this to myself? Why do I think that I need to be the phoenix that, sets herself on fire, that dies for other people, that like overgives and this and that? It was this really strange, deeper relationship with martyrdom and suffering. And I never really saw it until I saw it. And this is 15 years later now, right? So after all
Right.
that happened, I've had 15 years on top of that now, lived experience working with people. And this
Right.
is what I've seen is like, wow, even I had this belief that I needed to suffer in order to get the message. I had to hurt myself in order to feel it, because I wasn't conscious, because I wasn't paying attention, because I wasn't listening. It's like I was addicted to pain in some way, shape, or form. And then I thought, that's not cool. We gotta do something about this, because there are ways for us to change without having that intense amount of pain and suffering, right?
Yes. Yes. Our culture, I say, is addicted. Our greatest addiction is the addiction to suffering
Hmm.
and to pain. And that comes from generations and, of suffering and and also is influenced by many other things for sure in our culture. So what did you see? You've referenced it a couple of times, like where you acknowledged, oh, I believed that I had to have a lot of pain and that I needed to suffer. Like, what did you learn about yourself? Where did that come from originally? What did you discover?
Well, I think that, so the interesting thing is that I didn't realize how addicted to the suffering I was until
Right.
I became conscious, right? So the last 15 years, I've been moving through this next layer. And here's the interesting thing. So, one thing I learned is that it's not like you just get it overnight. And I always teach people this. They're like, okay, so I had the experience. Now it's going to change, right? You said, no, no, no. You're asleep, you're awake. Now you're going to watch yourself go through what you're going to do it one more time, right? You're not just going to change and get it right. You're going to you're going to do it unconsciously, then you're going to wake up and you're going to realize that you're doing it, and you're going to become aware of it, and you're going to notice how you're doing it, but you're still going to do it in some way, shape, or form. So you're not going to get it right. And you're going to watch yourself go through it. And then you're going to observe yourself, and then you're going to get it. But you're not going to stop doing it right away, because we learn through doing, like we learn through acting it out. So what I noticed was, even now, I just went through this my latest act, right? My latest act of courage was, after breaking up with that guy at 29, I dated a little bit, but I mean, I took quite a period of time off from being romantically involved, sexually involved. I mean, I was pretty much like a reborn virgin. Like, I became celibate for, I want to say, like 8 years. Like I just was doing other things. I wasn't looking for love, wasn't thinking about it. Then I met somebody and we got into a relationship and it started out great. And then it slowly, things happened. And, I started to notice, wait a minute, like something's not right. This isn't right. That's not right. And then through that relationship, once again, I had to observe myself and see it's happening again. I know you
Mhm.
don't want to admit that it's happening again, but it is happening again.
Right.
And you don't want to accept that you did it again, right? Like you don't want to own that you fell in that pothole one more time. I know you swore you'd never do it, but guess what? It was a nicer pothole, right? It was a smaller pothole, it was a sweeter pothole, but it was still a pothole, my love, and you have to get yourself out of it, right? So I had to end that relationship. But the way I ended that relationship was very different than the way I ended the relationships in the past. So in the past, I would like, yeah, 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 and I would all act all wounded and all woe is me, and you don't love me. And this time it was much more, listen, I am suffering. My body, I have paresthesia. I have thyroid issues. My body cannot handle this dynamic. I have to take care of myself. So I'm choosing to end this relationship because I love myself that much that I will not allow myself to suffer anymore. Do you see what I mean? It was like a different response. So you respond differently, you break the cycle, you move on, you're free. So that's what I've really seen through all of this is that it's not like you have to have so much love and compassion for yourself because you don't just change a pattern overnight. You learn, you continue growing. You have to give yourself room to fuck up or make mistakes or do whatever. You got to forgive yourself if you don't get it right the first time. Like we are so conditioned to just fix it. Like we just want to fix it. We just want to fix it and make it go away. And then it
For
doesn't
sure.
go away, and then we're bummed out and it's like, yeah, doesn't really work like that. I mean, it does, but it also takes some time and some
Yeah,
TLC.
it can be a really hard pill to swallow, and I think you're exactly right. It's once you become aware of it, you can start working on whatever it is, but undoubtedly, we can't say it happens 100% of the time, but it happens most often that you have another experience of it because, in my worldview, the universe, the divine, God, nature, whatever you want to use for that word is for that energy is bringing you another opportunity to take a closer look at what the dynamics are, what the layers are, what's the next piece. And, it can be hard to see, like you said, until you can see it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can't see it. I mean, and this is why I'm so big on the somatics and the embodiment and the being in your body and feeling your feelings. Because if I wasn't listening to my body, and here's what I've observed is I thought, wow, am I just like not, do I not have the same level of tolerance as I had? And I thought, no, I have the same level of tolerance. It's just that I'm awake now. So I feel things. When I was younger, I didn't feel things because I drank, because I did whatever, because I ran around and I partied. I slept with unavailable guys. I mean, I was not doing the greatest stuff in my late 20s. I wasn't treating myself with respect. I wasn't valuing myself. I was trying to make it all go away. I was just filling the void with whatever I could find because that's what we do, right? That's what we're conditioned to do. We just want to make it go away. I didn't know I was doing it. Then I knew I was doing it. Then I did nothing. Then I found something and I thought, you know what? Now I can feel it. So now it's taken me less time. It didn't take me 15 years, it took me a couple years to sort of get it through this layer of it, which is, that's great for me. It's like went from this really long time, much faster, much shorter, and a much deeper sense of release and relief. And then that is the thing that really allows you to break this, I'm all about breaking cycles. So then the cycle is really truly broken because I'll never let myself be treated like that ever again. But this is the hard thing is I had to ask myself, listen, because I teach self-love, self-worth, right? The worthiness wound is like my big thing this year because I've
Mm.
seen that this is the root of all of it for all of us. Like, why are you doing what you're doing? Well, you must not love yourself enough because if I truly love myself and valued myself, I would have walked away from the relationship the very first time the man that I was with didn't show up for me the way I knew I deserved. I would have ended it then, but I didn't. I gave him another chance and I gave him another
Right.
chance. And that's the same
Right.
thing I did before. So I'm like, listen, I know you love yourself, but you don't love yourself enough just yet. And that's okay. But guess what? Now you do. So good job.
Mm.
Kudos to you.
Perfect.
Get
Yes.
it.
Yes. All right, we'll go on a quick commercial break and we'll be right back. We're back with Come Back to Love Radio. Katie and I are having an amazing conversation, so rich, so deep. I want to come back to what you just said, and I want to slow it down so people can really take it in because you used some really potent words. You said the worthiness wound, which, as you said, you feel like, and I would agree, it all boils down to like all of our limiting beliefs, all the struggles, all the things we have that are obstacles on our path to our most aligned, beautiful selves in the world. When we bring those all down uh, to the foundation, for me, it's, yeah, it's a not good enough. It's a lack of self-love. It's a worthiness wound. And so, yeah, I would love to hear you talk about how you hold that, and yeah, how you're working with it in the world, how you worked with it with yourself, you said a bunch about, and yeah, just would
Yeah.
love to hear more.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's interesting because I often tell people it's like, you can't really change. We don't change who we are, right? I'm not in the business of changing people. I'm in the business of helping people, return to their most authentic selves, right? Really understand who they are, who they always have been, and what happened to get you so far away from yourself, right?
Right.
And I think it's so funny because over the years, so when I started doing this work, it was very obvious to me that it was because I wasn't treating myself as if I matter, right? I didn't feel like I was worthy of love. And that's why I was in a situation where I had a guy that didn't respect me, and I let him disrespect me because I didn't feel worthy. I felt like, well, I must deserve this on, so this is the best I can do, right? And so that was the beginning of all of this. And then as I started to heal and as I started doing the work, what's so interesting and ironic about it is that I got sucked into, as so many people do in the entrepreneurial world and in the spaces of coaching and this and that. But Katie, the worthiness wound is not enough, right? Nobody cares whether, so what if you're worthy? That's not enough. Tell me how to make $1 million, right? Tell me how to 10 times my business. Tell me how to da, 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 da. Worthiness is that's not important, right? That's lame. That's too basic, right? You have to be more than that. You have to become more than that. And also, no one will believe you and respect you because look at you, right? Because you got blonde hair and big boobs. You look like Britney Spears. Like you can't be an expert on trauma because of the way you look. So you gotta like get a degree and you gotta do this and you gotta da 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 da. So here I am over the years being like, okay, so I know that the source of all of this is self-esteem and self-worth, and yet I'm not allowed to teach self-esteem and self-worth because one, it's not enough. Two, no one's going to take me seriously because I'm not enough. Right. It's interesting to see how the story went. And off I went and I got further and further away and I tried to become this and I tried to do that. And, I'm like, maybe I should use this to help people make more money. Maybe I should use this to help people lose weight because that's what we're taught. Right. No one will pay you for self-esteem and self-worth, but they'll pay you to lose weight. They'll pay you to get a partner. They'll pay you to get a job. And I'm like, okay, so what I teach isn't worth anything in this world. No one wants it. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? It was like this weird dynamic. But
Yeah.
all these people kept coming to me. And the people that kept coming to me were like, I don't want any of that stuff. I don't care about that right now. I want you to help me with me because I have a messed up relationship with myself and I don't know why I can't love myself. Can you help me with that? And I'm like, well, of course I can. Right? Of course I can.
Yeah, of course.
you
Right.
know so looking at all of the people that have come to me throughout the years, that's the overarching dynamic, is that they have the same thing that I have. Is they're somewhere inside they don't feel like they're enough. They have this worthiness wound. They struggle with self-esteem, self-worth. It's a secret because nobody can talk about it because we're all supposed to be, appearing to be successful and businessy and have degrees and da, da. So it's always like, I really need help with this thing, but nobody can know.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, well, you can tell me. And they're like, oh my God, thank God. And then, the journey goes. And then the things that they're struggling with get better. And, the people that can't walk can walk again. And the people that have autoimmune disease, their autoimmune disease is healed. The woman that had chronic arthritis got off her pain meds and put her cane down and started running because
Wow.
it was this.
Wow.
Yes, these are
Mm.
miracles. I mean, amazing things are happening. People are getting new jobs. All that shit that people want, the relationships, the healing, it's all getting solved, but through this very simple dynamic, which is let me help you understand why you don't feel like you're enough because of what happened to you, because of the trauma, because of what your mother said to you when you were 5, because of what happened to you when you were 15. Same thing as me, right? Same thing as me. I was fine until things happened, until somebody told me that I was a worthless piece of shit, right? And then I was like, oh, okay. That must be true, right? Then I can't, what do I do with that? I keep that. Then that becomes my story. So
Yeah.
all of this is about, helping people understand what happened. It's like, what happened? What did they say? How did you get here? And what can I do to help you understand that none of that was true? None of that belongs to you. You give that back. You get that out of your body. You get that out of your nervous system. You get that the hell out of your brain. I'm going to teach you how to remove all that stuff. We're going to delete, we're going to update everything so that you remember who you really are. So it's this interesting updating of the memories. You can
Mm.
you can remember such beautiful stuff about yourself. We have to teach you how to remember it. But it's like that's what this worthiness wound is about. And that's why I get so excited about it, because I'm back to my roots, which is this is why I started this, you guys. Like I started it because I was the little girl who grew up in a home of alcoholics with 3 suicides and a grandma in a coma. Like I had shit all around me. None of it was my fault, but
Mm.
I'm from that. That's where I came from. So I'm tired of needing to apologize for my challenging past, because it's like, oh, well, no, that's just who I am. It's where I grew up. It's how I learned to be so compassionate and loving. And that's
Mm.
why I understand worthiness so much, because I've seen it. I grew up around it and I know
Right.
what it can do for you.
Right. And it's like either people say directly, you're not worthy, you're this, you're that in a really negative, direct way, or we interpret something that happened in our lives in that way.
Right.
For me, I had a mother who was kind and loving, but also sick and died really young. She died when I was 10 years old. She was 37. It was a hell of a 4 or 5 year journey up till that moment. And it wasn't that anybody said to me, you're not worthy, you're not lovable, you're not enough. But the way that I interpreted that whole situation of people that loved me, that were close to me, distancing from me for, good reason, um, not feeling well, feeling depressed, feeling anxious, and it was just hard to manage being a mother and going through all of that at the same time. But so the unspoken message, the way that I interpreted what was happening was like, oh, I must not be good enough. Oh, I must not be worthy enough. Oh, and so I just want to say that for our listeners as well. It's like sometimes it's very direct, and sometimes it's just these beliefs that drop in because we're
Oh, yeah.
young, we're trying to make sense of something that doesn't make any sense, you
Oh,
know?
totally. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that my grandmother being in the coma is a great example of that for my life, because I mean, that was just a tragic thing that wasn't supposed to happen. She had surgery, she had a brain tumor. It was supposed to go
Mm.
well, it didn't. And so I visited her as basically a vegetable for 5 years. You know
Oh, oh
what I
my
mean?
gosh.
And it was like just
Okay.
this little girl, and I was telepathic, so I could hear her. Like I knew she was in there, and like I knew that she was
Those.
alive. It was really hard, but also, I was a really good girl and I went to church, and I was taught that like if you ask God for help, God would help you, right? And so I was like, dear God, I'm a good church girl, right? And you love me, and so I'm asking you, can you help my Grammy? And Grammy died, right? Like Grammy didn't get better. And
Mm.
it was devastating to me. And it was these moments like that as well, where it's this like unspoken subtext that just kind of
Mhm.
hovers in the air. So much of the time when I work with people, they are so surprised when we find, because one of the things we're doing is we're looking for the very specific moments. Like the day you were reading a book and you had a thought. I mean, we're looking for very, very needle in a haystack moment
Yes.
ideas by going into the subconscious, things pop up. And it's so interesting how people can go, really, that's what it was. I was reading my favorite magazine and I got scared, like, what if I never become as famous as so and so? Like, what will that mean about me?
Right.
That was the day the belief was born. So it's definitely a lot more um it's definitely more in sort of well, it's the subconscious, right? But it's very subtle stuff. It's not the in your face. And that's why it was hard for me to understand, because on the surface I should have felt really good about myself, right? I should have been confident. I mean, I did a lot of amazing things. I was successful. I had a 4.0 GPA. I was like valedictorian. I was in my four archetypes. When I teach my workshop Wildly Worthy, we have four archetypes, and I had become the high achieving pleaser. Like, I had achieved the highest of highs, right?
Guilty.
So
Guilty
many
as
people are like,
charged.
I'm the high
Yes.
achieving pleaser. That's what we
Yes.
do. That's what happens. The worthiness wound. It's like, there's these
Right.
different pieces, but there's that like, well, okay, so I just need to become greater and greater and
Strategy.
greater. But
Mhm.
on the surface, I was fine. But the internal was this bold, the other archetype is the bold but broken dreamer. And that was my origin story. The bold
Mhm.
dream of my grandma's gonna be okay, right? My dream is to be on Broadway. My dream is to be a movie star, and da, da, da. And people are like, you'll never get that. Da, 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 da. So this heartbroken child becomes this high achieving pleaser who's never
Mhm.
satisfied. And that's how I became the way I am. That's my origin story. And I think
You
you're like,
just
yeah, sounds
you
very
just
similar.
described my origin story.
Well,
Yes.
that's how I know it works, baby. Because
Yes.
I'm like, see,
Exactly.
not just me. It's you
No.
too.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. That's
It's
I
fascinating.
love it. I love I love resonating with you on that one. Let's take one more quick commercial break and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the last segment of this episode today of Come Back to Love Radio on Dream Vision 7. This has been so fantastic, Katie. It's wonderful to have a really clear picture of what happens to us because we're human and we all go through what we go through in life, whatever shape that takes over the years and how it's so possible. I love what you said, and it's exactly in alignment with my work to like rework the nervous system, rework the memories. You said like delete, cancel, and really come back to remembering who we truly are. I mean, I feel like that's why we're here. And it's certainly why I'm here to support other people in coming back to love, meaning coming back to remembering your divine essence. And so your work just resonates so much with mine, which is just giving me chills. So, yeah, thank you so much. And thank you for sharing about the worthiness wound. I think that so many of our listeners are resonating with that. And so I want to encourage our listeners to find Katie. And to connect. You share more in a minute about how to do that. But I also want to remind everybody who's listening to the radio that you can go to Dream Vision 7 and find the page with the show and find all of this information like written out for you to click on a link to connect with Katie. So just a reminder for those of you listening to the show. And Katie, how do we get in touch with you? What do you have to
Yeah,
offer?
yeah. So obviously, my website is katiekozlowski.com. It's K-A-T, I spell it out for you. KatieKozlowski.com. And then my Instagram is at I am Katie Kozlowski. So either of those spaces, you can come on over. There's a contact me button. You can DM me. You can send me an email. Reach out, say hello. I do have a free gift. It is my embodiment ritual. So it's called the Glow Wild Daily Ritual. And it's essentially what I teach people to do in the morning to start your day. So it's a centering practice, coming into your body. It's a great way to program you to be more present. And that's the foundation for everything I teach, right? The more present we become, the more resourced we are. So if you really want to start changing your life, you want to start with this embodiment ritual. It's the thing that changed my life the most, which is why that's my free gifty for you. And then I am often teaching this Wildly Worthy workshop. So if you miss it this time around, just, if you get on my list, you're going to know when the next one is. This is where I'm going to teach you a little bit more about the archetypes. I'll let you know about the worthiness wound, what you can do about it, and also the 4 archetypes of what I call the fragmented feminine, which is the framework to resolving this on a core level. It's really, really fun. And then that rolls into, I have a program called Mini Morphosis. I have a longer term program called Metamorphosis, but Mini Morphosis is a
Mhm.
4-week program. I know it's so cute. It's so cute. It's like a little
It is.
it's like a little tea sandwich. Mini Morphosis is a great. It's a 4-week program, and it's sort of the entry point to all of this. So we just get down to the nitty gritty, and in 4 weeks, dig into this worthiness wound and help you resolve it, so you can start getting more of what you want, and building the self-esteem and all that, everything that you need to start really loving yourself and feeling good about yourself. So I think that's the scoop.
Thank you so much. And of course, it goes without saying that once you feel in love with yourself, once you've healed that worthiness wound and you've come back to love with yourself, then so much is possible in life because you're not getting in your own way,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, and that's the whole thing is like,
Yeah.
once you break that cycle, you're free to move on. It's like the bird who's no longer in a cage. I was doing some writing, and one of the things that I realized is I'm not it said something, I wrote something down like I'm not in the business of building bigger cages. Right. So a lot of times you work with people and it's like, now I need a bigger this, that, the other. And it's like, you don't need a bigger cage, girlfriend. You need the key.
Yeah.
Okay.
And to get out. Exactly.
Yeah. So this
Yes.
is the key to set you free. This is how we get you unhooked so you can flap your wings and you can go do all the things you want in life and like enjoy. It's about enjoying because we're here to have fun. We're here to love ourselves. We're here to like
Yes.
be happy.
Yeah. So true. So true. Thank you so much, Katie. It's been such a pleasure, so much fun. I'm thrilled we had this time together. I'm so glad that our listeners have this time with you, and I look forward to connecting in the future. And for those listening out there in Radioland, I'll see you in a week with some more Come Back to Love goodness. Have a beautiful day, everybody.